Quinnipiac men's ice hockey played host to Vermont on Sunday. See how they fared against the Catamounts.
And men's soccer hosted Iona on Saturday. Were they able to push their win streak to 4 games?
All that and more on this edition of Sports Paws.
Welcome to Sports Paws. I'm Steven Pappas. He's Jack Main. Thank you for spending part of your Monday night with us.
It was a busy weekend for the Bobcats with 5 different sports playing in Hampton just on Saturday alone. But we start earlier in the week on Wednesday with the men's soccer went down to the Jersey Shore to take on Monmouth. Let's start on the pitch as Quinnipiac men's soccer traveled down the Jersey Shore to take on Monmouth. The Bobcats were able to pull off the win behind Henry Y. Gines' goal, a go-ahead goal in the 82nd minute of regulation. Monmouth actually outshot Quinnipiac in this game 15-10, but it was the Bobcats that had the last laugh, taking the match 3-2.
After beating Monmouth on Wednesday, Quinnipiac men's soccer was back in action Saturday to try and push their win streak to 4 games against the Iona Gales. Quinnipiac has had their well-documented struggles against Iona at home, winless in their last 6 matchups against the Gales. After a dull first half, things really picked up in the early minutes of the second half. The Gales netted 2 goals early in under a minute on Quinnipiac keeper Jared Mazzola. Eamon Whalen came off the bench and got the Bobcats within a goal. In the 73rd minute, the Bobcats looked to have the game tied a little later on, but a quick whistle by the official nullified a Quinnipiac equalizer. The Gales remain undefeated in Hampton, taking this one 2-1.
After a 500 week for the Bobcats, we take a look at where they sit in the MAC standings. Let's take a look right now, and it looks like Quinnipiac is going to go up to 3. And St. Peter's is going to remain up at 1, Iona at 2, Marist at 4, Manhattan at 5, Niagara sits at 7, and Fairfield wraps everything up at 8. They sit at 2, 3, and 2. We would now like to welcome in men's soccer beat reporter Ryan Flaherty into the studio. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great, Jack. Great to be here.
That's great, Ryan. Now let's get this started. After the win, what was the difference for Quinnipiac against Iona on Saturday?
Well, Steve, you kind of just touched on it right there. The difference was that second half. Iona comes out playing much more aggressive, and they scored 2 quick goals, and that really changed the momentum of the game. Quinnipiac lets in an easy goal, a goal that Jared Mazzola would like to have back, and I think the momentum just got lost on Quinnipiac. They allow a second goal, as you mentioned, in almost under a minute. And all right there, Quinnipiac, to their credit, they clawed back. They do end up tying the game, but the goal gets called back. But really, for me, it was just that first 3 minutes of the second half that changed the whole game.
It is always said that defense wins you championships in all sports. So how is it important that the defense plays well down the stretch?
It's so important, Jack. It's probably one of the most important things about this team moving forward, and there's been so many moving pieces. When you have a guy like Yeppe Hare who's been out for the entire season, you have a guy like Jordan Bennett who's missed the last 5 games. There's a lot of moving pieces here. Christian Casagrande, Griffin Scaglia have come on in relief, I guess you could say, and are learning in their new roles, but Henry Wagen, a freshman who's been logging a lot of minutes, and then you have Connor McCoy, who's really the captain of the defense. But there's so many moving parts, and I think at some points there's some lack of focus and there's some miscommunication that this defense just hasn't been up to the standard that we've seen last year, where they allowed just over a goal. They're up more at a goal and a half per game mark right now, and I think it's going to be really important for the defense to play a cleaner game moving forward.
So, Ryan, if you're head coach Eric DaCosta, how do you handle the lineup of Whalen, Asen, and Svekula?
So I just said the defense was the most important issue, but I think the most interesting storyline moving forward is these 3 guys. There's so much talent on this offense. Eamon Whalen, obviously the reigning MAC Offensive Player of the Year. Tomas Svekula just named MAC Rookie of the Week earlier this morning, and Baraj Asen, a young freshman who has a lot of talent and is getting better every game. This is a great problem for head coach Eric DaCosta to have 3 elite goal scorers. I would love to see Eamon Whalen play a lot more. As you mentioned, he comes on late in the game off the bench, gets a goal. Quinnipiac changes their formation a little. They're able to claw their way back. I'd love to see him play more as one of, if not the best players in the conference. But Head coach Eric DeCosta spoke after the game, said that it was a tactical decision, that Iona's style of play fit better Austin and Svekula, and I think you have to agree with DeCosta, but I'd love to see Eamon Whalen play a little more minutes for this team.
Ryan, one last question before we let you go. How do you expect this team to fare in the postseason?
I expect them to fare pretty well. Right now, as we just saw, they're sitting in that third spot, right around where they should be. They were picked to finish second in the conference. They have that elite goal scoring that I just talked about. If the defense can just start to communicate a little better, as that group of four really starts to play together in more games, as guys like Bennett and Hare are going to be out. Once they develop that chemistry and that communication, I think along with that, the elite goal scoring and an anchor in net like Jared Mazzola, I think this team can go really far in the MAC playoffs.
Men's soccer beat reporter Ryan Flaherty, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We make the jump from Mount Carmel to York Hill as the women's hockey team played a 2-game set with Sacred Heart. We'll start with game 1 on Friday. Let's roll that tape. So Sacred Heart coming into Quinnipiac today, and Logan Angers was going to lead her team out for warm-ups. It was going to be her first start of the season. We're going to start the action here in the first period. The face-off would be won by Katie Tabin, and the rebound by Sarah Ev Kutu Godbu, but she cannot stuff it in. The game would be scoreless later here in the first period. Kenzie Hosworth has a good chance, but the nice save by the Sacred Heart goalie keeps it scoreless onto the second period. Now it's senior Allison Roski is going to put it in the net for her first career goal to put the Bobcats up 1-0. Later here in the second period, Kenzie Hosworth with all kinds of time and space, and she pots her first career goal as well to put the Bobcats up 2-0. Still in the second period now, Grace Markey wins the faceoff, and junior Renee Saltins fires on the back for her first career goal, and Quinnipiac takes a 3-0 lead. On to the third period now. Kenzie Hosworth dekes past not one, but two Sacred Heart defenders to put Quinnipiac up 4-0. In the third period, it would be Sarah Ev Kutu Godbu would get revenge on her missed goal in the first period, and she would put the Bobcats up a definite 5-0. And last but not least, Kate Riley would add her first goal of her career on the power play, and Quinnipiac would complete the six-pack and beat Sacred Heart in game 1, 6-0. After the game, the women's ice hockey beat reporter Connor Olthorn talks about the team's dominating win.
The Quinnipiac Bobcats won 6-0 over the Sacred Heart University Pioneers on Friday night, first game in a weekend series. While it was 6 goals on the ice, the first of many for some of the Bobcats really stood out to Coach Cass Turner.
So great to see so many people get their first goal and have our first shutout all in one game. It was really impressive. There's a lot of great energy on our bench because of it, and we're proud of those players for taking that step. I think it's really great. I've been saying to anyone who asks us about our team, like, what's so special about this group, and it's our depth. We have a really strong group of girls in terms of their character, and so much of what happened last year with our outgoing seniors, they really defined what this culture is all about and showed what that should look like. And I think now we're really seeing that. Because the depth that we have and the confidence that our players are playing with is pretty impressive.
There was one first that stood out the most, as it was a long time coming.
I am so happy. I worked really hard and my teammates really helped me out, and I think it gave them a lot of energy throughout the rest of the game, so I'm really happy. It was just a really special moment for me.
The Bobcats are back in action tomorrow on a Saturday matinee at 3 p.m. From the Frank Perotti Jr. Arena in Hamden, Connor Othorn, Q30 Sports.
Now on to Game 2 of the weekend series against Sacred Heart. The Bobcats were looking to keep things rolling Saturday. Saturday was very much of the same from Friday night, as the Bobcats would go on to dominate for their second straight win. Taylor House had 2 goals number 3 and 4 on the season, and Bobcats goaltender Logan Angers notched her second straight shutout. Now from the ice to the hardwood, Quinnipiac squared off with their in-state rival and the number 1 team in the MAC Fairfield Saturday afternoon, looking to change their fortunes against the Stags, who are 13-1 all-time versus the Bobcats. The Stags came into Hamden and trounced the Bobcats in straight sets, dominating in points, sets, and digs. Quinnipiac came out strong and kept it close in the first set, but Fairfield pulled away and showed their might in the second and third sets, dominating the Bobcats.
After the final point was tallied, volleyball beat reporter Katie O'Keefe and Jacob Resnick talked about Quinnipiac's struggles against the Stags.
The Quinnipiac Bobcats fell in straight sets to the Fairfield Stags on Saturday, dropping to 4-8 in MAC play. Alongside Katie O'Keefe, I'm Jacob Resnick. This is The Rebound, presented by Q30 Sports. Katie, the Bobcats kept it close in the first two sets, but the third was all Stags. What did you see today?
Were we expecting today's loss? I don't know, but Fairfield, historically a very talented team, and today was no different. They lead the conference 9-0, now 10-0, and they lead the conference in most things. Looking at the stats, you can see here that Fairfield stats double Quinnipiac's. Zalepi with 5 kills, Battles with 12, Diaz with 12 assists, and Nicolini with 39. Fairfield just took it and ran with it.
We're now approaching the point of the season where the games get tougher, classes are in full swing. Head coach Kyle Robinson spoke on the challenges his team will be facing the rest of the way.
It's a lot of hard work, and at this time of the year, it's extremely tough work when you're adding on, you're right in the middle of class loads, deep into the season, we're fighting injuries, it's a lot of hard work.
The Bobcats are off on Sunday before traveling to play Manhattan and Iona next weekend. Katie, what can the Bobcats do to get back on track?
They're on the road the next weekend, so two very beatable teams, Manhattan and Iona, who both sit in the bottom of the conference. So sweeping one or both of those teams for Quinnipiac would be a great start to the second half of MAC play.
The Bobcats return home on November 9th when they'll host the St. Peter's Peacocks. For Katie O'Keefe, I'm Jacob Resnick. This has been The Rebound, presented by Q30 Sports.
It's time for us to take our first break of the night.
But when we come back, we'll see if Becca Main was able to capture her 200th win, as well as Quinnipiac men's ice hockey hit the ice against Vermont. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Julia, are you ready to play band with us? I'm gonna play my clarinet.
And Elma's gonna play his drum. Drum loud.
Oh, well, you know what to do, Julia.
Julia knows.
With Julia's autism, loud sounds can be too much.
But she still loves to make music. Play band.
Early screening for autism can make a lifetime of difference. Find out more at screenforautism.org.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self. And I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. I knew you would stick around. After a tough series against the University of Maine, the men's ice hockey team had a long break until their matchup against the University of Vermont on Sunday. Let's take that highlight. Sunday afternoon hockey in Hamden. Keith Petrozelli and the 9th-ranked Quinnipiac would be taking on the University of Vermont. And the Bobcats would get off to a hot start here in the first period against Catamounts goalie Stefanos Lekes. It's the captain Nick Germain getting the Bobcats on the board first, 1-0. Just 3 minutes later, sophomore Ethan DeYoung out in front of the goal to score. It puts Quinnipiac up 2-0. Teletubbies loving that as well. Still in the second period here, the Bobcats have Wyatt Bongiovanni tipping it in for his team, his league-leading 4th goal of the year. It is 3-0 Bobcats. And then in the third period there, as you see the Ice Cats loving that one, it was one more time for the Bobcats. Hamden native Joe O'Connor with the breakaway opportunity, puts it in the net. It would be a nice moment for him. And after the game, men's hockey beat reporter Tom Krasnowski talks after the win against Vermont and the team finding its identity early in the season.
The players and coaches are skating with the Bobcats here on the ice of the Frank Flaherty Jr. Arena after Quinnipiac beat Vermont 4-0 in a non-conference game this Sunday. After the Bobcats' 5th non-conference tune-up of the season, Grant Pecknell believes that his team's identity is coming together.
Much better, yeah. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. I thought the guys were locked into what we need to do with our identity to win hockey games, and we got our reward today.
It's great. I mean, we obviously have chemistry that we built off last year, so they're two really highly skilled players, and I think we all complement each other really well.
I've been happy with our depth at forward this year. I think it's as good as we've had in a long time. It's it's been an issue in the last couple of years. So this year I think we've rectified that problem.
We did good on entries, we did good on retrievals, we got the pucks to the net, and it's just executing, honestly. At the end of the day, it's that simple. We have to have the urgency to really want to put the puck in the net and outcompete the other team.
At 4-1-0 on the season, and coming off a home 4-0 shutout win, things are looking good for the Bobcats. Next weekend, they'll take a West Coast trip to face the Arizona State Sun Devils in their final non-conference matchup before conference play begins. From the Frank Flaherty Jr. Arena, I'm Tom Krasnowski, Q30 Sports.
Tom is actually here with us now. He is on the touchscreen with Steve Pappas. Take it away, guys.
We're looking at the next 5 games for the Quinnipiac Bobcats right now. The 9th-ranked Quinnipiac Bobcats are the latest USCHO poll. Tom, take us through these next 5 games for the Bobcats.
Well, Steve, they start off with a West Coast swing against Arizona State, and as you know, these teams have some history. They went out to Arizona State 2 years ago. Bobcats tied and won, and then last year, of course, met in the NCAA playoffs. Quinnipiac won that one, so the Bobcats have never lost to these Sun Devils before, and I don't think that's going to change. Why don't you swipe on over? We got 2 wins in the books for the Bobcats on this road trip weekend. Arizona State, they do have some star power that I should mention. Johnny Walker, one of the best goal scorers in the nation. He's got 4 goals already. Brinson Pashnuk, he is an NHL-ready defenseman, or pretty close to it. And their coach, Greg Powers, very good coach. But they lost Joey DeCord, who was a really big part of the success last year, the goalie. And I just like Quinnipiac's depth a lot more than ASU's. So even though it's tough to sometimes say, go on the West and win 2 games, I could see it happening.
Yeah, and you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I agree with you that I think they're going to take one of these games. I think they will drop one. And it just comes down to the fact that you've got to travel out west. This is one of the farthest west trips you have to take other than Anchorage, Alaska. So that could take a toll on the Bobcats. I mean, you mentioned they have not lost to the Sun Devils yet. They beat them in the playoffs last year, and they really only lost Joey DeCord. So this is a team that's very veteran-heavy and a team that I think could give the Bobcats a run for their money. I know we've seen so far this year with Vermont and Maine give the Bobcats trouble, and I think Arizona State could take one at home. They might steal one at home.
We'll see. I like that they were able to beat Vermont and Maine a couple times. I think they got a little bit of swagger back. So Dartmouth, the next game on the schedule for the Bobcats, and that's going to be their first conference game. It's also a road game, and that's a place they lost last year, 5-1 to the Big Green, but this isn't last year's team for either Dartmouth or Quinnipiac. I got Quinnipiac winning this one. So that's going to be 3-0 on this little 5-game preview right now. And a lot of it's because of knowns and unknowns. We know what Quinnipiac is. They have depth, they score, they try to swarm on defense. Petrozelli's been a lot better lately. Rand Pecknell gets his team up for Friday games. All that stuff we know. We don't know much about Dartmouth right now. They haven't played yet because the Ivy League schedule. We know they're middle of the pack in UCAC hockey preseason poll, and we haven't seen them in action yet. So for now, I'm going to go with what we know. I think Quinnipiac's getting its swagger back.
Yeah, and you mentioned that. I mean, it's hard to judge these teams specifically. I mean, Dartmouth, Harvard, Cornell, you want to look at, what Cornell's going to be. They got a lot of talent. Morgan Barron's back. And there's just but when it comes time to the Ivy League, it takes a couple weeks for them to get back into play, and it really doesn't give you a gauge on what you got to go play against, especially getting now into conference play. You're starting to get into your groove of playing teams you're used to, but you don't really know what they have. So I think definitely this is a toss-up game, just being what the unknowns are for Dartmouth and what we know about Quinnipiac. And we know how Dartmouth played Quinnipiac last year in New Hampshire. So it's a toss-up, but I definitely would agree with you here that I think that the Bobcats can come out with a win.
As for the next game against Harvard, I know what I just said about knowns and unknowns, and Harvard hasn't played yet either, but I think this one could be a tough one for the Bobcats. I'm going to call it a loss. Swipe that on over. And that's because we do know a few things about Harvard, at least. We know they made the NCAA tournament last year. We know they're higher ranked than Dartmouth to start the year in the preseason poll. We know they beat Dartmouth in an exhibition scrimmage earlier this year, which isn't everything, but it's something. It's the only thing we have to go off of. And we know they have an NHL prospect on defense who is an all-ECAC hockey defenseman, Riley Walsh. So for that reason, I think I'm going to get Harvard. Quinnipiac's better on Fridays than Saturdays. It's a road game. I'll take Harvard.
Yeah, Quinnipiac struggled a little bit towards the end of that last year with Harvard, but they did lose a key piece in Adam Fox to the NHL. I think that might be a bigger key than you might see. I mean, Riley Walsh is a great player, great defenseman. He is an NHL caliber player, so I don't think they lose too much with Adam Fox being replaced by Walsh, but I could definitely see, like I said with Dartmouth, this is a toss-up.
Well, last game, we got Union. Union is 1-7-0 in the season. I think right now Quinnipiac, they got that one in the bag. We haven't seen Quinnipiac beat Union in our time on campus, but that's going to change. Bobcats win this one. They go 4-1 in the next 5 games. That has them sitting pretty at 7-2.
He's Tom Krasnowski giving you the next 5 games for the number 9 ranked Quinnipiac Bobcats. Back to you, Jack.
Tom, it's always a pleasure having you on Paws. Thanks for joining us. After the 4-0 win over the Catamounts, let's see where the Bobcats sit in the latest USCHO poll. The Bobcats stay at number 9, but more notable is Minnesota Duluth moving up from 8 to 6 in this week's poll. Denver stays at number 1 with Minnesota State and UMass Amherst following in the 2nd and 3rd spots respectively.
Back to the pitch we go. Quinnipiac women's soccer taking on Manhattan. Midweek matinee.
Following the draw against Manhattan, let's take a look at the latest MAC standings. And you can see here, Quinnipiac sits at number 5 at 4-4-1. Monmouth undefeated at 9-0 and 11-2-2 in conference play. That's best in the MAC so far. Fairfield at 7-1-1, and then all the way at the bottom there we have Siena at 2-5-2, wrapping up the MAC standings. Becca Main has been searching for her 200th win for almost a month now, with her last win coming on the 27th of September. For the first game of the weekend, the Bobcats traveled down to Norfolk, Virginia to take on number 19 Old Dominion, and the Bobcats would fall 4-0 in this one.
Bobcats looking to bounce back from that blowout loss. They take on Brown at home Sunday afternoon, with head coach Becca Main still sitting on win number 199. The Bobcats jumped out to an early lead with goals by Brooke Whipke and Juliana Capello in the first 10 minutes. And the Bobcats didn't look back. Quinnipiac would extend their lead as far as 4-0 and would go on to win by the final of 5-2, giving Becca Main her elusive 200th win.
After the game, we got a reaction from Becca Main about her 200th win.
I would say, the first 100 came with, I don't want to say ease, but I think it came with ease. We were at a conference and I think we were above a little bit. We played a little bit above in that conference, and I think, to have these last 100 came, for 4 years in the Big East, which was really a learning experience and a growth experience. And obviously this was a painful last win to get to, and it takes about a month to get to it. But, it wasn't really a major focus for my team. I didn't realize it was until they had signs ready and all the stuff. I didn't even realize they knew it. I knew media knew, I knew my administration knew. But to see that the team actually really knew that, that was heartwarming, I'll be honest with you. But then you also think about all the wins, and we were talking about as a staff, like, what were your favorite wins over the years? So we went through and I was talking about some of my favorite wins and things like that. So I think for that, you get to go down memory lane, and I'll get to connect with some alum today and tomorrow, probably, and most of this week. So that's probably the best thing about it, is to reconnect with them and talk about what their favorite wins were. So I'm pretty excited about it. I'm pretty pleased, and obviously I'm really proud about 25 years and 200 wins. I'm pretty happy.
Now, after the win for the Bobcats, let's take a look at the Big East field hockey standings. Nothing's changed at the top. UConn and Old Dominion round that out. A 3-way tie down at the bottom. Quinnipiac, Villanova, and Georgetown all sit at 1-5 in the conference. Quinnipiac will take on 2-4 Temple on Friday. Let's take a break. Last one of the night.
We got rugby and their game against Army, and of course, everyone's favorite segment, the top 5 plays of the week. Don't move, we'll be right back.
Whoa, we scored? Yeah, we scored. We're going to the playoffs. I can't believe I missed that. Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone. What? I should take your phone away. No. I'll call for a ride. Wait, why does my face look like that?
I'm playing with these new face filters.
Okay, you know what? Yep, that's mine.
Kevin, I need that back.
No.
Kevin!
Get it.
Get it.
Get it.
Give your town a reason to celebrate, because every Goodwill item you bring home brings job training and more to your community. Goodwill, bring good home.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. Only one more block to go. Quinnipiac women's rugby was looking to snap a modest 2-game losing streak Saturday as they went up against top-seeded Army West Point. Let's see the highlights. Bobcats hosting NIRA's top seed Army West Point for Senior Day. Quinnipiac honoring its 2-time national champions before the game got underway. First half now, after taking a tough loss to Army earlier in the year, the Bobcats would be looking for revenge, and it came out firing early as Allison Koenig finds the end zone for the try. McKenna Haas would connect for the conversion to make it 7-0 Bobcats. A little later on in the first, now 10-7 Army. It's Koenig again taking the ball away from the pack and finding the end zone for her second try of the game. And she had her Wheaties for breakfast, stiff-arming the Army defender out of the way to make it 14-10 Bobcats lead. As we see the stiff arm there.
That's mean.
That would be the last of the scoring for the Bobcats, however, as Army would go on to score 45 unanswered points, including this last try from Rebecca Syrup, to put a bow on West Point's perfect NIRA record of 4-0. Here's what Becky Carlson had to say about the program moving forward.
Speaking of Trisha, actually, I had a conversation with her a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the similarities between what we think our teams are going to go through based on youth. And she's like, we're just owning who we are. We're owning who we are, and that's something that I had to come to. I had to confirm that with myself too. And speaking to her was just, something that I really, really needed. Coming off of 3 national championships and last year, we just have to. Everyone expects things of you and thinks that this is something that's consistent, but it's really hard to do that.
All right, it's time for the best part of the show, the top 5 plays of the week.
I'll take the odds, Jack, you'll take the evens. In play number 5, it's the third, one more for the Bobcats. Hamden native Joe O'Connor goes short side on Stefanos Lekis.
Play number 4, Kenzie Hosworth with all kinds of time and space in the slot. She pots her first career goal against Sacred Heart. Quinnipiac would win that one 6-0.
Play number 3, it's Hosworth again. She dekes past not 1, but 2 Sacred Heart defenders. And let's zoom in and see this one more time. That was a beauty from Kenzie Hosworth. There's 1, there's 2, and the backhand top shelf.
Now on to the rugby field. It was Allison Koenig getting away from the scrum, and she lays a mean stiff arm into the face of the Army defender. I mean, she had her Wheaties for breakfast. You said it right, Steve.
And we go to play number 1 of the week. We go back to York Hill and the men's ice hockey to take one more look at that mean stiff arm, Marshawn Lynch-esque stiff arm.
Oh yeah, that's something that you wanted to see.
Play number 1, Nick Germain, Mr. Sports Center himself, starts the scoring for the Bobcats, going forehand, backhand on Stefanos Lekis. Quinnipiac would win that one 4-0. Thanks for tuning in tonight and making us a part of your Monday. Make sure to stay up to date with all Quinnipiac sports on Twitter at Q30 Sports and our website at Q30TV.com.
This has been Sports Paws. I'm Jack Main.
And I'm Steven Pappas. We will see you same time next week.